This is the official SuperCoach NRL podcast. Game day preview.
Hello, SuperCoaches. What a crazy evening we're coming off, and what a crazy morning as well, with a whole host of SuperCoach stars already ruled out this weekend after what was arguably the best Origin game we've ever seen, depending on what side of the border you come from. But there has been a lot of carnage for SuperCoach. At least 7 players from that game are already ruled out. Dave Campbell, have you managed to avoid any of the dramas?
I thought I'd managed to avoid the dramas because I really only had Harry Grant, and then Hamoli Olakuatu, fully suited and booted, entered the fray.
Anyone getting in a brawl while wearing a suit has my utmost respect.
I'm angry at him, but it's also my favourite photo from the game last night is him, of all the groups of people, he enters the melee shoulder to shoulder with Ashley Klein, and it's just the photo is him going in and Ashley just looking at him like, what are you doing? It's just like, he could have entered from anywhere, but that's his point. I love it. So
the news on Hamoli is 2 to 3 weeks he's facing in suspension. Yep. He was such a popular buy over the last couple of weeks. He was the most popular buy in one of those rounds. So,
as soon as he didn't make the Origin 3 team, everyone loaded up.
So what are you doing? Is he a sell? I mean, a lot of people are getting short on trades.
I'm just going to bench him. I've got tons of depth in my second row, so that is a positive from my point of view. And I'm so low on trades. I can't just trade him out. It's trades I just don't have to burn.
Well, let's run through the late mail. As I said, 7 guys are already ruled out, confirmed. I reckon that swells realistically to at least 10 already, with guys who are in serious or grave doubt.
Yep.
And then a whole bunch more to come. So with guys on the buy as well, I reckon at least probably half the players are already basically confirmed out this week from that match.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what it looked like during Origin 2. We jokingly pulled up the teams from Origin 2 and we just started putting red lines through guys as they got, and by the end of that round, I think like 90% of those people had not backed up, and it's shaping up that way again.
Big props to Dylan Edwards, though. So he is out for 2 to 4 weeks now, is the early diagnosis, with a PCL injury. So he's one man of the match, presumably while carrying a 2 to 4 week injury.
Well, he was going down a lot. You saw the trainer with him a lot, strapping and taping and all those kinds of things. So he managed it through the game, but absolute warrior from him.
Not named for the Panthers this week. He was already due for arrest. Same with Isaiah Yeo, confirmed out, which we knew already going into the game. Cameron Murray, another naughty boy running into that brawl. It's 2 to 3 weeks for him. He's not particularly SuperCoach relevant this year.
No, I think he's only in about 4% of teams at the moment, so it doesn't affect a lot of people. But I mean, for the pure entertainment of watching a guy who hadn't even set foot on the field yet get sent to the bin. And poor Mitch Barnett.
Mitch Barnett gets pulled off the field.
Gets hooked just to take the number down. It was hilarious.
So good. It could easily have been a send-off as well, which would have changed the course of that game. There's a list of about 9 guys here who have escaped with fines as well, including some really popular guys like Burton, Payne Haas, Brian as well. So that is some rare good news coming out of last night. Pat Carrigan, though, looks like he's almost certainly out. So left with a moon boot. Our man Pete Bedell, who was up there at the game, tells us he left in a moon boot. It's an ankle injury. He's almost certain to be ruled out. Similar story with Reece Walsh, who apparently just had ice packs over his entire body. There's the full list of it in the late mail story. And if you want to read the story, get on there. You can subscribe to Code for only $1 for the first month. So I suggest if you're going to read one story this year, it is late mail this round, because there's so much information packed in there from our big team of reporters. Just get on, try it out for a month. That'll get you to the head-to-head finals and then go from there. But enough plugs. Let's talk about Reece Walsh. Apparently ice packs on his hip, shoulder, leg, all over his body.
He definitely got knocked around.
He's in grave doubt, is the term from Bedell.
But all those guys we've just mentioned, they're actually big numbers. You know, Olakuatu's in 29% of teams, Dylan Edwards 14%, Yo 15%, Carrigan 15%, and Walsh is in 10%. So not insignificant numbers. And if you own just more than one of those people at the same time, your team could be in disarray.
Yep, absolutely. Mitchell Moses, and another guy who, although he hasn't had scans yet, his bicep is gone. He says he's out for the season. Huge blow for the Eels. SuperCoach wise, it may create a little bit of opportunity for Blaze Talangi. So there's some chat from Fatima Kadu, our reporter, that Gutherson could move into the halves and Talangi goes to fullback, which would be huge news for SuperCoach. But they also have Dejan Arce and Ethan Sanders floating around too. Yeah. So they've got lots of options to replace him.
And the problem with that is you kind of want to know so you can make a move, but the Eels are on the bye. So we're not, if that's what happens, we're not going to know till next week anyway. And I guess the other thing going there is, you know, we know the new coach, Riles, he's gotten that release from the Storm. That idea of Gutho coming out of fullback when he returned from injury earlier in the year is kind of thrown around, but then it never really happened. But, you know, the new coach coming in early, maybe he wants to shake some stuff up and see what some of these combinations could look like. He knows the season's gone for the Eels, so why not just come in and do it? It's a real chance.
It would make sense to give him 7 or 8 games at fullback to finish the season. There is some good news. So Kalen Ponga says he will back up. Great news there. All Cowboys are set to back up as well. So great news for Val Holmes in particular and Robson, who's still pretty... Cotter. Lots of popular SuperCoach players there. Harry Grant, we're chasing. We're not sure on him yet, but he did carry a sternum injury into the game. He played a lot bigger minutes than he usually does in Origin. He clearly got banged up a fair bit as well and missed a crucial tackle in there. Made 40-odd tackles on top of that, so you'd have to think he is in some sort of doubt.
Yeah, he's the biggest concern, I think, especially given the Storm's position on the ladder. They don't need to risk him if they don't feel like it. The strange thing there, though, I think, is they haven't named another genuine hooker in their squad, but we have seen guys like Wishart slot in there periodically throughout the season, so it's not like they can't manage it with the squad they've got, but it's just a bit of a weird situation there. Really could go either way.
Good news from a press conference this morning with Trent Robertson of the Roosters. He says all his Origin contingent should back up. That includes Angus Crichton, who I was a little bit worried about given he got that Category 2 concussion, but Robbo says that they're all going to play. Yeah. So Crichton backs up after winning the Wally Lewis medal. I'd be expecting a pretty big game from him. Yeah,
I mean, personally, I hope he gets 20 minutes and then a big rest, drops a bit of cash, and I'll get him next week with one of my very few remaining trades.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. So you've just come back from a big holiday.
Oh, yeah, it was lovely up in the Northern Territory.
How did your team go while you had no access to the internet?
I'm into 125th overall.
And who are you, who looked after your team, and do you have anyone to thank for your team going so well?
I'd like to thank myself for my efficient planning, which was to get you to make a couple of trades for me because I had no reception for 6 days. It would have been a debacle otherwise. So you stepped in. I appreciate it immensely. And things are going well. But I'm now really concerned about the number of trades I have left.
I tell you what, it was more stressful running your team, which at the time was coming 250th or whatever, than it was actually running my side. So,
yeah, well, you know.
Although I'm claiming all the credit.
You know,
realistically, you had reception for about half an hour.
Yeah, there was one period I think on it would have been like the Wednesday. No, it would have been the Thursday, wasn't it? And it was like, so. I've got half an hour. How are things?
Let's chat. Send your questions through, guys. Do you have any loaded up yet?
Yes.
Send them through on Facebook or YouTube Live.
Luke says he's looking at downgrading Kyle Iro down to Ali Luatua.
I would prefer enough instead of him. I mean, I know he's been named this week and he's got a lot of talent, that's for sure, and he's highly rated.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to go to enough. And secondly, I wouldn't be selling Kyle Ero. I know he's got the bye this week, but he's averaging basically 60 for the year.
Yeah, and I mean, how good was it to see him actually get a try last week as well?
Finally got some attacking stats,
Yeah.
and they've got an incredible run home too.
Yeah.
After this bye.
Dan's he's obviously got a boost left. He's bringing in Grant, Kolomatangi, and Tom Trebojevic this week.
Well,
The Grant one, I
with
guess,
Grant, definitely.
might look at holding on to that boost potentially.
Koloamatangi I really like, actually, particularly with Cameron Murray out. There's always... we never quite know whether Murray's going to play edge or... not Homoli. Or like R2's going to play edge. Hopefully he plays a fair bit more middle now.
Yeah,
Murray out.
I mean, he had a really good game last week, but with that first half, they played him up the middle, and then when he came back on after a breather, they'd put him on the edge, and I don't think he basically touched the ball again the rest of the game, which was bizarre because he was absolutely murdering them up the middle in that match. And he's got a good matchup this week against the Tigers, so he could be on for some big points there.
Let's go to the burning issues for this weekend. Dylan Brown is the 5th most sold. Yes, he's on the bye, but does this make sense for you? With Moses out, he tends to go a little bit better and take a bit more control of that side. I'd be considering reversing that. I know Nathan Cleary is calling, but I think Dylan Brown could go okay in the run home.
I mean, I think it's maybe just a bit of rage trading because he was a little bit disappointing in round 19, where a lot of people had him in because of that big buy. So I can understand the emotions and the urge to just punt him. But I mean, he's been relatively solid all season. He's not banging out massive numbers, but he's doing a job.
Tom Trebojevic, I'm getting on this week. He's coming in for Fletcher Sharp for me, and he's going to be my captain. I heard you muttering a few things around the office before that you might be considering him this week.
Yeah, well, with Olakuatu out, I had 18.
Yeah.
Olakuatu out means I'm down to 17, but one of those is Harry Grant.
Right.
So, and I was just going to hold Latrell through his injury, but I'm thinking maybe I'll use one of my few remaining trades to bring in Tommy this week and captain him at 4 pints.
Yeah, I think it does make sense. The only other guy I'm really considering in that position is Kalen Ponga, but I'd probably wait a week on him. He's got that big break even. Dylan Edwards he's not really in contention anymore after this injury.
Yeah.
Plus I own Tedesco already, so for me it'll be Teddy and Turbo, the old duo.
That'll be me as well.
To run.
Absolutely.
Nathan Cleary, do you go early this week, even with that big break even of 190 odd?
Look, I can see, we know his SuperCoach pedigree, we know how good he is, so I can see why people are doing it. But it's one of those ones I want to have a look. We saw him return from injury earlier in the season, and he lasted half a game, and then he was gone long term again. So similar with what you and I have done with Tom Trebojevic over the last couple of weeks, we've had a look, made sure he's come back in okay and managed to last a couple of games, and then we're getting on. Yes, we missed his big score last week, but with trades running so low, I think it's the smart play. Just have a look first, make sure he returns okay, and then load up if that's the case. Yeah,
I'll definitely be taking a look this week, and I also don't have enough money to bring him in. I need to create 30k, so hopefully he's predicted to drop 100k this week, so hopefully that happens and I can get on next round. It is time for this week's Best Bets, brought to you by the Tabs NRL Same Game Multi. Build smarter same game multis using stats and insights. Download the Tab app today. Now, I like what Trent Robinson said this morning in his press conference, that all his Roosters are going to back up. So I've got them for the win up against the Storm, who I don't think will be with Harry Grant. I think he'll end up being ruled out. With Angus Crichton to score a try, backing up from his Wally Lewis medal. I think he'll be on a high, and I think he'll have a good game. So that's paying $4.80, which is about as wild as it gets for a bet from me.
That's crazy. You're an animal.
Wild.
I'm going the Manly Titans game. So obviously at 4 Pines, we saw Garrick and Turbo light it up last week. And Garrick, even though he only played that 63 minutes, still managed to ton up. So I've got Manly to beat the Titans, Tom Trebojevic first try, Garrick to score a try, and also 10 or more points, that's paying $26.
$26. Wow, you are actually wild, that's for sure. And you can place those bets, or the only place to place those bets is on the Tab app. What is gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on screen or visit the website gamblinghelponline.org.au. Cheapie Bible. So I don't think there are any genuine cheapies this week. Someone like Isaac Tungor at under 400k, with Cleary coming back into that team, we know how important Cleary is to the attack in that side, but particularly the attack on Tungor's side. I reckon he's a really good option. The BE is 60 odd, I think, off the top of my head, so you don't have to move this week.
I know Cleary's been out for the bulk of this season, but you look at guys like that and your price is that low for a reason, and it's because you've been a spud.
But he's absolutely killing it at the start.
I know,
but in the team.
But how disappointed are you if you've held on to him? It's one of those risk-reward things, and a gamble. If it comes off, you're laughing. If it doesn't,
I see it very similar to the Mulatalo trade over the last couple of weeks. He was going poorly because he'd barely scored any tries, etc., and then comes out with an amazing game over the weekend.
Yeah, I VC'd him. Did you see that? I VC'd Mulatalo.
Yeah, so what did he end up with? 130 odd?
Loophole, 136. Lovely.
Very good, very good.
After you told me he's going to be a cheapie.
Well, I wasn't in charge of your team on the weekend.
No, exactly.
You wouldn't even have Mulatalo if I was in charge of your team. Tavita Pangai is one of these wild Supercoach players with risk and reward. 390 odd K. What are your thoughts?
He looked good. Like, as long as he doesn't go out there and take someone's head off.
Yeah.
He's always looked good, and obviously that little stint out of the game means he's come in at a good price. Of all the guys we're talking about, he's the only one that I think I'd consider bringing in because you know what you're going to get. You just got to hope that he keeps his cool in the games and doesn't jag a ban or a sin bin or anything like that.
Let's do the no-goes on, and there are two guys who I feel really strongly on. I would not be selling Blaze Talangi, and I would not be selling Kyle Ero. Now, both of these guys have been really good cheapies this year, have made a heap of cash, and yes, they have peaked. They're both on the buy this week, so I can understand why people would want to cash in or upgrade to a keeper. But these guys are averaging 60 for the year. They're really good 18th, 19th, 20th men. If you're short on trades, definitely keep them. Particularly Talangi, with the chat that he might be moving to fullback over these last couple of months of the season.
What do you think, though, if you're looking at bringing in a Kiraz or a keeper like that who we know can bang out some really big scores, and the Dogs do have a fairly decent draw heading into the end of the season? Yeah,
I mean, it can depend on team situation. I'm already really strong at centre wing, so I don't need to prop it up too much.
Yeah.
So I'm happy there, and centre wing is just such a good position this year. You could easily play 7 of them every week and put 3 of them as your reserves.
Yeah, my no-go zone is Greg Marzu. I'm seeing a lot of people trade him out this week, and I don't understand that. Yes, last week was a really bad game for him, but we saw that he copped that really bad cork to his leg early on, and then he basically limped through the rest of the game. It was an injury-affected game. His name's to start. Pong is backing up, and we know that Ponga is really good at feeding Marzu down that side. I just think it's madness to trade him out. He could easily knock out 120 this weekend.
Yeah, so I own Marzu. I certainly won't be trading.
Yeah.
We are chasing whether he will play this week for late mail, so we should have a definitive ruling on that before the 24-hour cap. We're definitely looking into it.
Yep.
Captaincy this week. It's interesting because you've got Ruben Garrick at 22% as the most popular captain. Pretty good matchup against the Titans at home. He was my captain last week and he was killing it, and it ended up with a really good score, but only played the 63 minutes because we found out afterwards that he hadn't trained during the week. He was ill all week. Hopefully he's back to full fitness this round, and a really good option late in the week too.
Yeah, I think a lot of that percentage is probably still tied over from last round where he was the most popular captain. I imagine it'll come down a bit, but you think if he was sick and played 63 minutes, there's no reason he won't just be back to his full game this week.
So this game, the Sea Eagles v the Titans, has the three most popular captains all playing in the same game. With Garrick, David Fafita and Tom Trbojevic. Fafita, I'm a little bit worried about. I don't think I'd be going there because it is an away game at 4 Pines. Yeah, he might be fired up after that Origin snub, but you could have said that last week too.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also... he's been really solid this year, but there haven't been any massive scores. So, in that same game, when you've got guys like Garrick and Trbojevic that have that ceiling, I think, their flaw is what David Fafita could bang out on a weekly basis.
Yeah, Turbo's captain for me. Whenever he plays at home, you just have to lock him in. I think if you own Tom Trbojevic, you just put the C on him this week. You don't even need to think about it too much. One guy I wouldn't be going for is Tedesco. Now, he's a bit of a pod at only 14% in the captaincy, but up against the Storm in Melbourne, it's risky. And he doesn't have a good record against the Storm. He only averages, off the top of my head, 59 against the Storm over his entire career.
It's a tough matchup. It obviously helps if all of the Roosters players from Origin are backing up, but yeah, I just think there's easier kills in the captaincy stakes this week than someone like Teddy. Like he could bang out a really solid 60 points, but when you've got other guys there who could easily ton up without even trying, I think that's where you want to look.
Let's do questions till the end of the show. What have we got?
Dale says, if you had Cleary, would you just captain him?
I think it's a really good pod option this week because it's a home game. It's always hard when they're coming back from injury. Without Edwards in the team, I think he'll be forced to do a little bit more. So I love it as a pod move, but if you've got Tom Trbojevic, I'd be locking in Turbo.
Yeah. Evan's looking at going Liam Henry to Tavita Pangai Jr. and Fletcher Sharp up to Tom Trbojevic.
Well, Sharp to Trbojevic is a good trade. I'm doing that. Liam Henry, I'd be a little bit reluctant to sell. So Yo is confirmed out this week, which almost always means that Henry plays big minutes, and we know what he can do in big minutes. I'm predicting a pretty good score for Henry this week, and I've got him in my 17.
Yeah. Shane said he's done with his trades. Is there a way he can buy a few extra?
Oh, you know how much money we would make if we just completely corrupted the integrity of the game and started selling trades?
Yeah. Well, maybe we could just do that on the side. No. Yeah. Anthony said, is there a chance the Cowboys Origin players play? Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, the mail at the moment is all of the Cowboys players will back up. So unless they're just being a little bit sneaky there, there's no reason to suspect that's not the case.
Yep.
Any Haas availability news?
Yeah, so Haas is going to back up. Pete Bedell, our man. It's in late mail. Check out the story. Subscribe, $1 for the first month. As you guys already know, Haas and Cobbo will both back up, but Carrigan, very unlikely. Reece Walsh, very unlikely too.
Bruce says, would you trade Dylan Edwards or wait for a bit more clarity on what that injury is?
I want to see a little bit more, but fullback is such a hot position. If it is 4 weeks, you can't be holding someone for 4 weeks at this time of the year.
Yeah. This is a good one. A lot of people probably in this position. Dave said he's got Api Coruscant and Jaden Brayley at hooker. Should he play Brayley, who would likely get, 20 to 30 points, or trade Api out to get in someone who's a bit more solid?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? So hooker is a really rotten position this year. No one's really killing it in that slot at all. I'd be tempted to take an AE this week if you can. Depends how many players you've got, and your AE would probably end up being Brayley anyway. But it also means you get an opportunity to use a loophole too if you go with the AE option.
Yeah. You've already got Trbojevic, but if you didn't, Ponga v Trbojevic, who would you bring in?
Oh, look, I really do like Ponga, and if you didn't have that massive break even, I'd be going there this week. The other factor is that Tom Trbojevic is a fair bit cheaper too, so that's the way I've gone.
Yeah, especially if you're looking to bring in a Cleary It helps you bank some cash ahead of that trade, which will cost you a bunch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Ponga's not kicking goals, which I think is also crucial.
Yeah. Is Olakau'a to a hold? So 2 weeks.
If he takes the early guilty plea, it's 2 weeks. It depends how many trades you've got left, really. If you've got 10 trades, sell him for sure.
Yeah.
If you're like me and you, how many have you got left?
If I trade out Latrell for Trebojevic to shore up my numbers, I have 3 left.
3 left. Well,
with
I've got
5. 8
5.
rounds going.
I got 5 left after this week.
Oh,
so,
you're laughing.
Right, one more question.
One more question. Is Sharp a sell with Ponga coming back?
Yeah, I think he is. Yep. And hopefully he can get up to a genuine keeper in that position. Massive show today. It's been a seriously stressful morning getting all that late mail together, I'll tell you what. But keep an eye on that story because we'll just be updating and updating. We're chasing all these big lines like Marzu, which Origin players will back up, etc., etc. Keep an eye on that. Subscribe $1 for the first month to code. Big thanks to Dave Campbell. Enjoy your trip to Paris for the Olympics as well. And we'll catch you in,
7 weeks?
7 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Catch you then.